Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, and it is episode 8 of what we call our schizophrenic synopsis. And as y'all know, last week we took a long, hard look at Rob Zombie and his the first 2 entries into his Firefly family trilogy, and both House and Rejects. And this week for Thanksgiving, we are both taking a good, hard look at Three from Hell, and the third piece to this trilogy, right? And so before I go forward with my own thoughts on this film, it is of course a 2019 release. Rob Zombie, of course, caps off this trilogy. We got Sheri Moon Zombie back as Baby, Bill Mosley as Otis, of course, Sid Haig for just a bit, Captain Spaulding, and rip on him. Man, he is going to be missed. Jeff Daniel Phillips will play the warden of the prison where Baby and Otis are, and Richard Blake, of course, will play Winslow Foxworth Coltrane. I think Foxy, I guess he's known by in the movie. And the cinematographer of this film, David Daniel, he of course did 31, but he was the camera operator for most of Rob Zombie's filmography. And so he does bring a level of work that we have come to really know throughout his films. But we all know, probably most of us have got this, I'm sure probably, but a few. And so Three from Hell, what I think. It's funny, the level of talk and discussion throughout the horrorphilia community, not 22 Shots and Moods and Horror notwithstanding, of course the talk was everywhere. No More Room in Hell, and just, everywhere, right? Everyone was talking about it. And the range of opinion went from one extreme to the other extreme. And so it made it very interesting to take a look at this. I was sort of, whether how much I wanted to see it, I was probably just all over the map as well. But yeah, so I did see it though, twice. And what I think, it's interesting. A good part of me wishes Rob would have just left the first 2 pieces alone. Rejects had such an incredible end and was such an incredible film, and I hate the idea that we have a film now that perhaps detracts from the greatness that was The Devil's Rejects. But on the other side, it did allow us to get just a little bit more Sid Haig, but maybe even more than that. I thought Three from Hell was a perfect opportunity to see, of all the characters, Baby really come into maturity. And we really get to see her in this film in a way that we haven't seen her. And a lot has been made about how she's broken in the prison, and when she gets out, she's a baby that is just completely unleashed. And, and I didn't really quite, I see where some of that comes from, but what I saw more than anything was Sheri Moon really, really striving hard to bring the character of Baby to perhaps what is probably the end. I can't imagine Rob Zombie going off on another Firefly tangent. But I enjoy Three from Hell. I think mostly, I like the idea mostly as what could have been had Sid Haig been able to actually reprise his role in full. I just love the idea of where that might have gone. Nothing against Richard Blake. I thought he did well for what he was asked to do and how quickly he was asked to do it. But this really does seem like it's Baby's movie, and where it perhaps with Sid could have been their movie, the trio. It could have been their movie. This, I think, in the end is Baby's movie. And I really wish, there are certain scenes in this movie that just feel absolutely, almost kind of like they're thought up last second. Oh, you know what? I got an idea. We just happen to be here right now. Let's just do the scene real quick. And it just feels like it's thrown in, forced in. I think of the The scene that involves Richard Blake and Otis when they're sort of camping out in the woods and a couple hunters stumbled upon them. That whole scene just feels unnecessary and just feels like it was dreamed up in a bit of a moment and tossed in. Whether it was or not, that's how it felt to me. There's scenes in the prison that kind of feel like that to me. I think the opening, the whole opening montage, I thought served really well. It could have meant more, I think, had Sid been able to flesh out that character to its logical end. But you know, it's another experiment in exploitation and 70s drive-in cinema. You know, there's just some people wanted to see this movie come full circle rather than continue, you know, the direction it was heading in terms of the grindhouse effect. I'm not, you know, it's weird. I'm not sure exactly what would have made this movie for me, because the end of Rejects is so phenomenally, I mean, it's almost masterfully done with Freebird and just rolling down the highway. To see some of that footage reused in this film, it just I hate to say this was just an excuse to spend 5 more minutes with these characters. I really don't think so. I think this was or ended up being an opportunity to really take a look at Baby's character from who we first meet in House of a Thousand Corpses, how she evolves through Rejects, and then ultimately what prison does do to her. And as we see her, I'll tell you, with the Indian dress, albeit the Native American dress that she wears towards the end, that whole end sequence with her, I thought was some of the best that we have seen Baby yet. That was, I just absolutely enjoy, like, I guess the last 15 minutes of the movie with her, just her. I mean, I just love that. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's got its moments, and then it's got its moments that are, there's a lot to be desired. I don't know. A hit, miss, a trilogy completed. It's somewhere in the middle of all that. We do have a trilogy. How completed that trilogy is in the minds of all of us fans, especially those who hold Mr. Zombie to a pretty high level, and as far as our love of horror. But hit or miss, I think it's somewhere in there. I think it's what you can pull out of this film. Does this film by any stretch rise to the level of Rejects or even House? It doesn't. It's a pretty big step off, but not far enough to call it a complete miss. I think Sheri Moon Zombie saves this movie from being a complete miss. And although it never strives to be a hit and really serve to complete the trilogy, I think, you know, I don't know. It's just one of those. It's one of those things that we have to live with as horror fans. Whether it's, you know, Halloween 2, the original sequel that is being somewhat dumped for the attempt with 2018 to push the story forward, pretending none of that stuff happened. What a great finale to the second piece of that franchise was, and we're sort of left to just toss it off. And now, of course, there's rumors abound that totally different subject, but that perhaps the end of Return of the Jedi may be put on its head by what they're doing in the third piece of this latest Star Wars trilogy. So it just seems like lately we want to go back and take things that we consider sacred and just sort of toss them by the wayside, and that is very unfortunate. And this film is no exception. Maybe it's unfortunate that the end of Rejects was so phenomenally awesome. It almost demanded to be left alone. But now we have an extension to that, and I think it's well, you gotta have it, right? Because it does cap the trilogy. And if anything, I would say it's the Baby arc, man. This trilogy really now, I think, ought to be more focused on her character more than anything else. had Sid been able to make it through, that'd be a completely, totally different conversation. And another reason to own this thing, just another chance to listen to Rob talk his way through the commentary. It's always fun listening to Rob. But I really do. I think it's time that Rob gets an opportunity. I wish a studio would step in and give him an opportunity. The Philadelphia Flyers film that he's been wanting to do. There's a Chaplin film I think he's been wanting to do. I really wish he'd get a chance to just kind of get a break from horror, step outside of what he's been doing, do something completely and totally different, and maybe start to evolve as a filmmaker much better. So I'm kind of hoping maybe this is the last little bit and we'll see something totally different. But 3 from Hell, what'd you think? Well, we know what a lot of you thought because there's been a lot of talk about it, but I think in the end, I think it's enjoyable only from the standpoint of, mostly from the standpoint of watching Baby continually evolve over the film. I think Sheri Moon Zombie really brings it this time, and she is just absolutely so much fun to watch. And in fact, there's times when the camera captures her, she is stunning. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe it's just how I receive it and see it, but there's just moments that the camera just captures her perfectly, and she really is something else. And so there you have it, 3 from Hell. I'm very curious to hear what James has to say on this thing, and again, it's kind of hard to avoid it, right? We're completists in the sense that we ought to have a trilogy in our collection, but if you're one who's really hated on this film, I think maybe all I can offer is take another look at it, but strictly from Baby's point of view, and thinking back through Rejects and House and where her character has come along. And maybe perhaps we'll start to have a little bit different opinion on this film. I'm not sure. But anyways, episode 8, Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there in the listening area, just all who chime in and check us out, and in the Horror Philly community. Just happy Thanksgiving. Just enjoy the time with your families and whatnot. And Black Friday, and once that passes, we're on to the Christmas mode of thinking here, I guess. So episode 8, Rob from Georgia. It has been a Rob Zombie couple weeks. So y'all take care, and always go Bills.